YouTube? This is Flatline Duelist coming with you with the deck profile that was just used in Galactic God's most recent duel video. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little tongue-tied, a little excited here. It was the water deck that was actually played against his Halderic Beast. I'm just going to kind of go through it a little quick, explain a little bit of the combos, and again, this is just a quick profile for the channel forum, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it for you. I run 3 copies of Atlantean Dragoons. I like playing this card, obviously, because it's a water deck, but when he's ditched from the hand for cost of a water monster effect, you add a Sea Serpent to your hand. Plus, it allows level 3 and lower Sea Serpents to attack directly. I play 3 copies of Atlantean Marksman. When he inflicts battle damage to my opponent, I special out a Sea Serpent, or Atlantean Sea Serpent anyway, so I can bring out the Atlantean Dragoons. Plus, when it's discarded for the cost of a water monster effect, it allows me to pop a face-down card my opponent controls. Okay. I also play 2 copies of Atlantean Heavy Infantry. When it's used as cost for a water monster effect, I can destroy 1 face-up card my opponent controls. So this card is actually really good to use. Plus, it gives me an additional Sea Serpent normal summon for the turn. So I love using that card. And speaking of Sea Serpents, probably the backbone of the entire deck, it's 3 copies of Deep Sea Diva. Deep Sea Diva pretty much dictates what's going on with the deck depending on the field. Now, if I'm going first and I open the Diva, most likely it's going to be Diva to Heavy Infantry to Gachi. But again, it depends on what I'm playing against and what my actual hand consists of. This was the Genex version of the build, so I'm running 3 copies of Genex Undine, and I'm also running his little friend, Genex Controller. I'm not 100% sold on this version of the deck just because of this guy here. I don't like playing the double controller, but again, the deck always changes, it always evolves because, you know, anything can happen in this card game. But the reason why I played the Undines was you can send a Dragoons to the graveyard, you add a controller, and then you can add your Sea Serpent or you know, whatever, or you can use Marksman's effect to pop, Heavy Infantry to pop. The deck just does so much, especially with the graveyard. I run 2 copies of Effect Veiler. I was playing Maxi, Trigodia. I mean, I went to 44 cards at one point with this deck. This actually is pretty streamlined. I believe right now it's 40. So with the double Effect Veiler, I just felt it was better during this format, especially against the Bears. I used it against the Halderic Beast quite a bit in the duel video, surprisingly. Now moving on to the Mermail aspect of the deck, I play 2 copies of Lindine. Lindine, basically when she's destroyed by at all, period, and she's sent to the graveyard, I special out a Mermail except for herself, and I can only activate the effect of this card once per turn. So she's really good, especially with the trap card Abyss-Spere, and she searches out pretty much any Mermail that I do play. The other Mermail that I play is Abyss-Spike. Abyss-Spike, I ditch a water monster from my hand to add a level 3 water monster from my deck. I can only use the effect of him once per turn, but what's really cool is, like, if I bring him out on Abyss-Spere, which would negate his effect, I can pay the cost and still search, or I can pay the cost of the water monster. You know, like if it's Dragoons, I search. If it's Marksman, I pop. Infantry, I pop. You know, that's really cool. So I really like using the Abyss-Spike. Then I run 2 copies of Mermail Abyssmegalo. Abyssmegalo is pretty nutty in my opinion, just because it's a 24 boss monster you can just drop on the board for the cost of 2 water monsters, plus then you search for Abyss-Sphere or Abyss-Squall, or pretty much any Abyss trap card, or spell card, I'm sorry, and it's just a really good card to use. I'm glad that, you know, we decided to, I wanted to pump it up to 3, but I just didn't see the consistency of running 3. Then the last monster that I play is the other boss monster, which is known as Mulan Glacia. This deck can manipulate its graveyard for 5 waters anyway, extremely fast. So I run the 1 Mulan Glacia, so it's a really good card, plus ripping 2 cards out of the hand is great. Moving on now to the spells, 2 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon. I don't like back rows. I mean, I can deal with your monsters, but like face up, soul drain, stuff like that, I have to get rid of it, so I do play the Mystical Space Typhoons. Then again, with that graveyard recursion, and, you know, controlling the numbers in the graveyard, 2 copies of Salvage. I then also play 1 copy of Allure of Darkness. The reason why I play Allure of Darkness is for the controller. If I open controller and Allure of Darkness, at least the controller isn't dead in my hand. Then the terrible trio of Monster Reborn, Heavy Storm, and Dark Hole. And the last spell that I play is Pot of Avarice. I like Pot of Avarice. Again, this deck cycles the graveyard a lot, so you play the Avarice, you drop Glacia, win the game. Moving on to the traps. Traps are really basic. 3 copies of Abyss-Sphere. Abyss-Sphere, activate it. I can't activate spells, which is fine because I run a very small amount of spells, but I bring out a Mermail. Most of the time it's Lindine. Lindine dies, I go get Pike or Megalo, depending on, you know, the situation at hand. Then I play 2 copies of Torrential Tribute. I mean, it's a water deck. Might as well flood your graveyard with monsters. It's a joke, laugh, whatever. Then the last card I play is Phoenix Wing Wind Blast. I play this card just to help out, to get that 5th water in the graveyard, to make Genex Controllers in my hand not dead. So that's the reason why I like playing the 1 of Phoenix Wing Wind Blast. Moving on now with the extra deck. The extra deck is 15 cards. It's pretty basic. I run Mist Wurm for level 9 play when it's Diva, Marksman, Dragoons. Scrap Dragon, which I've hardly ever made, but there are times when I'm like, hey, I need to make a Scrap Dragon. So I make Scrap Dragon and do some shenanigans with him. 1 Gungnir, 1 Black Rose Dragon, 1 Dewloren, 1 TG Hyper Librarian. TG Hyper Librarian plus I've opened double Diva. I'm drawing a card because I can go Diva. I can go TG Hyper Librarian anyway into Armory Arm, and then the last synchro that I play is Alive Justice Catastor. This is a great card against the Fire Fist matchup. Fire Fist players hate this card with a passion until they get the bear, and then the bear is like, hey, I'm gonna rip your Catastor apart. Then moving on now to the Xyz, I play 1 copy of number 11 Big Eye. I use this quite a bit. I was stealing monsters left and right. I don't think I ever did it against the Halderic player, or against the Galactic God, but if I did, sweet. If not, it's always in here. 1 copy of Snowdust Giant. I think I attempted to bring this out, but I got warning or bottomless or something by the Galactic God. I don't remember exactly what happened. 1 Abyss Dweller. This shuts down the Mirror Match, shuts down the Dark Worlds. Also shuts down Leo, surprisingly, but I don't think I ever made that against Galactic God. Then I run 1 copy of Leviathan Dragon. That's number 17. It's hard to tell. 1 Wind-Up Zenmaines, 1 Gachi, and 1 Daigusto Phoenix. Alright guys, that was the deck profile for the water deck that was just played against Galactic God in his most recent duel video. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, and Galactic God will put a link somewhere, anywhere on this page, or on this screen, I don't know where exactly, and I'm a magician. So go ahead, like I said, you know, if you have any questions, and I'll answer them for you guys. And this is Flatline Duelist, signing out.